The blizzard cut through my coat like broken glass, each gust a reminder that staying late was a mistake. My red pen hovered over another chemistry test as I sat in my empty classroom, the fluorescent lights humming their lonely song. Outside, the Nevada winter had turned vicious. Inside, I'd almost convinced myself I was safe. 6 years. 6 years since I'd used my power. 6 years since I'd watched Edward die in the snow, his blood turning the white ground crimson, while my magic, my useless, untrained magic, flickered and failed in my trembling hands. 6 years of teaching periodic tables instead of conjuring elements. 6 years of pretending Naomi Wells was all I'd ever been. The window exploded inward. Glass sprayed across my desk as a massive wolf crashed through, collapsing in a heap of gray fur and fresh blood. His body hit the linoleum with a sickening thud, and I was on my feet, chair clattering backward, every instinct screaming at me to run. But I'd seen that look before, the way his ice-blue eyes flickered open for just a heartbeat, aware, intelligent, already accepting death. The same resignation I'd seen in Edward's amber gaze as the light left them. Not again. No, I whispered, my feet moving before my brain caught up. No, no, no. I dropped to my knees beside him, and the scent hit me immediately. Silver, metallic and poisonous, soaking through his dark fur from deep gashes across his ribs and throat. This wasn't some animal attack. Someone had hunted him with silver-laced weapons. Someone had tried to execute him. His chest barely moved. Minutes, maybe less. The same countdown I'd failed 6 years ago. My hands hovered over his wounds, shaking so badly I could barely hold them steady. I can't do this. I couldn't save Edward. What makes me think I can save him? But even as the thought formed, my fingers were already pressing against the worst gash. Heat built in my chest, dormant for 6 years but never truly gone. Water, earth, fire, air. The elements responded to my call like old friends I'd abandoned. "I'm sorry," I breathed, not sure if I was apologizing to him or to Edward's memory. "I'm so sorry." The wolf's eyes snapped open fully, ice blue and ancient, pinning me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Recognition flickered across his features. Impossible. I'd never seen him before. I would have remembered a wolf this massive, this powerful. Elemental magic. The thought whispered through my mind, though I couldn't tell if it was mine or his. "She's the one." His breathing hitched, a low whine escaping his throat, and something inside me cracked wide open. All the fear, all the years of running, all the guilt over failing Edward. None of it mattered. Only this moment. This choice. I let the magic flow. Water poured from my palms, cleansing the wounds. Fire cauterized, sealing torn flesh. Earth strengthened failing organs. Air breathed life back into collapsing lungs. The silver poisoning fought back, burning my hands as I drew it from his system. But I gritted my teeth and pushed harder. Not again. I won't fail again. His bones began to knit together. Muscle regenerated. The massive gashes across his ribs sealed. His eyes widened, not with pain, but with something like wonder. And then I felt it. The magical signature I'd just broadcast to anyone with the ability to sense it. 6 years of hiding, of silence, of carefully constructed invisibility, gone in 90 seconds of desperate healing. The classroom lights flickered. No, not the lights. My vision. Exhaustion slammed into me like a freight train. Healing something this badly injured always took everything I had. I'd forgotten how completely it drained me. Or maybe I'd never healed something this powerful before. As consciousness slipped away, I heard voices in the hallway outside my classroom. Heavy footsteps. The jingle of keys, but wrong, too many like chains. Not the janitor. They found me. The thought drifted through my fading awareness, almost peacefully. Of course they did. I'd lit up the magical equivalent of a beacon. Every wolf in a 50-mile radius would have felt that power signature. The last thing I saw was the wolf shifting, for rippling into skin, his massive form condensing into something terrifyingly human. Tall, scarred, his ice-blue eyes still locked on mine with that same burning intensity. The last thing I heard was a voice, deep, commanding, impossible. Found you. And then darkness swallowed me whole. You want to know who that wolf was? Hold that thought for just a moment. The story you're about to hear is one you won't soon forget, but first hit subscribe and like to guarantee you never miss the next incredible tale. And let me know where you're watching from. Your support is the fuel for these stories. Now let's dive in. Now let me take you back. Back to the night that started everything. Back to the Nevada mountains 6 years ago when Nala's entire world died in her arms. I can still feel Edward's heartbeat stuttering beneath my palms. Can still see the way his amber eyes widened when he realized I couldn't save him. We were supposed to be free. That's what Edward promised me as we drove into the Nevada mountains that December night, the snow falling soft and clean like the fresh start we'd imagined. No more pack politics, he'd said, his hand warm over mine. No more prophecies or expectations. Just us. He'd rejected his father's alpha title 3 days before. Walked away from the Chesterfield throne like it was nothing more than a heavy coat he'd finally been allowed to take off. The pack elders had called him a coward. His father had disowned him. But Edward just smiled at me with those beautiful amber eyes and said, I'd rather be a coward with you than a king without you. I should have known we couldn't outrun our bloodlines. The wolves came out of the blizzard without warning. One moment Edward and I were laughing in the cave we'd found, planning what color to paint the nursery in whatever human town we settled in. The next, shadows were pouring through the entrance like smoke-given teeth. Stefan Grimoire led them, Edward's father's most trusted advisor, the shadow shifter who'd practically raised Edward after his mother died. I'm sorry, my prince, Stefan said, and his voice sounded like he meant it. Then silver-laced claws tore through Edward's chest. The world stopped. Edward collapsed into my arms, blood spreading across the snow faster than I could comprehend. No, I heard myself saying, No, no, no. My hands pressed against the wounds, and I reached for the magic I'd spent my whole life being terrified of. Fire to cauterize, water to cleanse, earth to strengthen, air to breathe life back into failing lungs. But I didn't know what I was doing. The elements flickered in my palms like candle flames in a hurricane. Too much fire burned him. Not enough water cleansed the silver. The magic that was supposed to unite kingdoms couldn't even save one man. I'm sorry, I whispered over and over, as if apologies could knit torn flesh back together, as if words could purge the silver poisoning racing through his veins. They couldn't, and neither could I. Edward's hand found my face. Promise me, he breathed, and I felt warmth spreading beneath my palm. Not healing warmth, but blood. So much blood. Promise me you'll protect our son. Promise me you'll live. Edward, please. Promise me, Nala. I promise, I sobbed. I promise. He smiled then. Actually smiled, like I'd just given him the greatest gift. His thumb brushed my cheek, and his amber eyes held mine until the light in them guttered out like a star dying. Stefan's voice cut through my grief like another blade. The prophecy cannot be fulfilled. I'm sorry, Miss Eastwood, but you both had to die. He gestured to the other wolves, and I realized with cold clarity that they were staging the scene, placing Edward's claws near the wounds, arranging our bodies to tell a story of lovers' violence. Something inside me shattered, or maybe it ignited. The elements didn't flicker this time. They exploded. Fire erupted from my skin in a wall of silver flame. Earth cracked beneath the wolves' feet. Wind howled through the cave with hurricane force, and water, sharp as ice, deadly as knives, drove them back. I ran into the blizzard and didn't stop running until I collapsed in another cave miles away, Edward's blood still warm on my hands. That's when I felt it, the flutter beneath my heart. The second heartbeat I hadn't known was there. I was pregnant, and I was alone. The night everything ended. 6 years. 6 years of silence, of pretending I was normal, of teaching teenagers about the periodic table, while my son learned to hide his glowing eyes at recess. 6 years of telling myself I'd never used the magic that failed me when it mattered most. Naomi Wells didn't have magic. Naomi Wells had a modest apartment in Reno, a 10-year-old Honda Civic, and a classroom full of 16-year-olds who actually seemed to like her chemistry lessons. Naomi Wells was safe, invisible, exactly what I needed to be. Miss Wells, you're the best teacher ever. Sarah Martinez had said that afternoon, hugging me before winter break started. I'd smiled and told her to study for finals, all while feeling like a fraud. The best teacher ever was a woman who'd let the love of her life bleed out in the snow because she couldn't control the power everyone said would save the world. Mama, my hands are glowing again at school, Elijah whispered that evening as I tucked him into bed. My beautiful boy with his father's amber eyes and my dark skin, already showing signs of both bloodlines. Last week he'd accidentally made it rain inside his classroom during a spelling test. The week before, he'd sneezed and cracked his desk in half. I said it was a trick with my pencil's eraser. Miss Sheila believed me. Good, I'd murmured, kissing his forehead. You're so smart, baby. Just like your daddy. I didn't tell him that his daddy had died because his mama wasn't smart enough to save him. The blizzard hit around 9 that night. I should have gone home. But there were essays to grade and nowhere I needed to be except a quiet apartment where Edward's ghost watched me from every corner. So I stayed, red pen in hand, pretending the empty classroom felt less lonely than my empty bed. The window exploded inward without warning. Glass sprayed across my desk as a massive wolf crashed through, collapsing in a heap of gray fur and fresh blood. My chair clattered backward. Every instinct I'd honed over 6 years of hiding screamed at me to run, to grab Elijah from Mrs. Lillian's apartment upstairs and disappear into another state, another identity. But then the wolf's eyes flickered open, ice blue and aware, and I saw it. That look, the one Edward had given me in his final moments. Acceptance, resignation, already dying. No, I heard myself whisper. My feet moved before my brain caught up. No, not again. I dropped to my knees beside him, and the scent of silver hit me like a physical blow. Metallic, poisonous. Someone had hunted him with silver-laced weapons, left him to die the way Stefan's wolves had left Edward. His chest barely moved. Minutes, maybe less. The same countdown that had destroyed my entire world. My hands hovered over the worst gash across his ribs, shaking so badly I could barely hold them steady. 6 years. 6 years of keeping this power locked away because the last time I'd used it, the person I loved most had died anyway. What made me think this time would be different? But even as the thought formed, heat was building in my chest. Water, earth, fire, air. The elements stirred like old friends I'd abandoned. I'm sorry, I breathed, pressing my palms against his wounds. I'm so sorry. The magic poured out of me like a dam breaking. Water cleansed the silver from his blood. Fire cauterized torn vessels. Earth strengthened failing organs. Air breathed life back into collapsing lungs. This time, God, this time it worked. His wounds began to seal. His breathing steadied. His ice-blue eyes snapped fully open, pinning me with an intensity that stole my breath. And I realized with cold certainty that I'd just made the same mistake twice. I'd revealed exactly what I was. 6 years of silence. The wolf began to shift before I could even pull my hands away. Bones cracked and reformed with sounds that made my stomach turn. Fur rippled into scarred skin. Within seconds, a man knelt where the wolf had been, tall, broad-shouldered, and devastatingly powerful even in his weakened state. His ice-blue eyes never left mine. "Who are you?" His voice was rough, commanding, the kind of voice that expected answers and got them. I scrambled backward, my hands still tingling with residual magic. I'm just a teacher. You crashed through my window. You were dying. Don't." He rose to his feet with predatory grace, and I noticed the scars. So many scars, crisscrossing his chest and arms like a map of violence. "Don't lie to me." That was elemental magic. Pure elemental conjuring. I've been tracking disturbances like that for 3 years. My heart stopped. 3 years. Not 6. Had I slipped before? Used my power without realizing? "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, hating how my voice shook. "I used first aid. Pressure on the wounds. Basic. You drew silver poisoning from my blood." He took a step closer, and I saw something flicker in his eyes, not anger but desperation. "You called the elements. Water, fire, earth, air. I felt them answer you like they were yours to command. Who are you?" He looked at me like I was both salvation and threat, like I held the answers to questions he'd been asking for years. And maybe I did. But the only answer that mattered to me stood 3 feet tall with his father's eyes and a bedtime in 30 minutes. So I lied. My name is Naomi Wells. I'm a chemistry teacher. Sometimes I have these moments where I can help injured animals. It's not magic, it's just... I'm Damien Ashford. He cut me off, watching my reaction carefully. The exiled Lycan King. "You've heard of me." I had. Everyone in the supernatural world had heard of Damien Ashford, the king who'd supposedly murdered his own father for the throne, only to be stripped of his title by the Council of Elders and his stepmother. Exiled. Hunted. Searching for something to prove his innocence. "The prophecy speaks of a conjurer," he continued, his voice dropping to something almost vulnerable. "One with power over all 4 elements. One who can bridge the gap between worlds. Unite the territories. My stepmother fears the conjurer because they're the only one who can reveal the truth about what she did. About who really killed my father." My chest tightened. The prophecy. The same one Edward had tried to save me from. "And you think I'm this conjurer?" I forced a laugh that sounded hollow even to my own ears. "I'm a teacher who knows some first aid. That's all. Your magic signature just lit up every tracking spell within 50 miles. Damien's eyes narrowed. "My people felt it, which means others did too. Whoever's been hunting you, they know where you are now. The blood drained from my face. Elijah, upstairs with Mrs. Lillian, probably already asleep, vulnerable. I can protect you," Damien said quickly, seeing my panic. "But I need your help. If you're who I think you are, you can prove my innocence. You can help me reclaim my throne. In exchange, I'll keep you safe from whoever's coming." "I can't," I started, but footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Small footsteps. Running. "Mama!" Elijah's voice called through the door. "Mama!" I heard glass breaking. "Are you okay?" Everything inside me went cold. Damien's gaze snapped to the door, then back to me, and I saw the exact moment he registered what he'd heard. "Mama, I had a child. I'm fine, baby." I called out, my voice too bright, too desperate. "Stay with Mrs. Lillian, okay? I just dropped something. I'll be home soon. Promise." "Promise." His footsteps retreated. When I turned back to Damien, his expression had shifted into something calculating, suspicious. "Just a teacher," he said slowly, "with a child. living alone, who just happens to have elemental magic powerful enough to heal a Lycan King from silver poisoning. "Meet me tomorrow night," I said quickly. "The old bridge by the river. Midnight. I'll explain everything then." I wouldn't. I'd be 3 states away by midnight. But Damien nodded, and something in his ice-blue eyes told me he knew exactly what I was planning. "Tomorrow night," he agreed. "Don't make me hunt you, Naomi Wells. You won't like what happens when I do." He walked to the broken window and shifted mid-stride, landing as a wolf and disappearing into the blizzard. I stood there shaking, knowing I'd just made everything so much worse. 2 days to execution. Edward used to trace the prophecy marks on my skin and tell me I was made for greatness. We'd met at a territorial summit when I was 22, both of us trying to be invisible in a room full of wolves who wanted to use us. He was the reluctant prince. I was the prophesied weapon his father had invited specifically to evaluate. "You're more than what they see," he'd whispered during a dance neither of us wanted to be at. "I can tell." I should have run then. Should have known that princes who saw past prophecies were the most dangerous kind, the ones who made you believe you could be more than your bloodline. But I didn't run. I fell in love instead. 6 years later, I stood at the old bridge by the river, watching Damien Ashford emerge from the shadows in human form. I hadn't fled like I'd planned. Couldn't, because Mrs. Lillian had mentioned seeing wolves circling our building, and I knew, God, I knew, that healing Damien had painted a target on Elijah's back. "You came," Damien said, and I heard surprise beneath the suspicion. "You promised protection." I crossed my arms against the cold. "I need to know if you meant it." He studied me for a long moment. "My stepmother framed me for my father's murder 6 months after she married him. Planted evidence. Bribed the council. I woke up one morning as king and went to bed that night as an exile with a death warrant." His voice was raw in a way I hadn't expected. Everyone I trusted either betrayed me or died trying to help. So forgive me if I don't hand out trust freely anymore. "Then why are you here?" "Because you saved my life when you didn't have to." He stepped closer. "Because your magic signature matches every prophecy text I've read. And because whoever tried to kill me will try again, and they'll go through you to do it." Edward's father had said something similar once. "The conjurer is the key to everything," Alfred Chesterfield had told his war council while I eavesdropped from the hallway. "Control her, control the territories." Edward had found me crying afterward and promised we'd leave together. "I don't want my father's throne," he'd sworn. "I want you. Just you." He'd meant it. That was the tragedy. "There's something you should know," I started, but Damien's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression went cold. "Someone's accessed the school's security footage from 2 nights ago. The healing. They've seen you." My blood turned to ice. "Who?" "I don't know yet," but he stopped, his gaze locking on something over my shoulder. "Get behind me. Now." I turned and saw nothing but shadows. Then the shadows moved. Stephen Grimoire stepped into the moonlight, looking exactly as he had 6 years ago. Silver hair, kind eyes, the face of someone you'd trust with your life. "Hello, Nala," he said softly. "I've been looking for you for a very long time." The name hit Damien like a physical blow. "Nala." He looked at me. Not Naomi. Nala Eastwood, the conjurer who allegedly killed Prince Edward Chesterfield 6 years ago. "I didn't kill him," I whispered. "Stephen did." "Under orders from Lady Valeria Ashford," Stephen confirmed pleasantly, as if discussing the weather. "She needed Edward dead to prevent the prophecy. Can't unite the territories if the Chesterfield heir refuses his throne for love." His gaze shifted to Damien. "And she needed you exiled, your majesty, so she could rule without interference." Two problems, one solution. Damien looked at me like I'd just confirmed every suspicion he'd had. You've been lying about everything. To protect my son, I shot back. Edward's son. Your stepmother wants him dead too. That afternoon, Elijah's eyes had started glowing during recess. I'd felt his panic through our bond and reached him just in time, wrapped him in my arms, and whispered calming spells until the amber faded. I'm sorry, Mama, he'd sobbed. I didn't mean to. I know, baby. I know. Now Stefan smiled. The boy is 6? Perfect age for his abilities to manifest. Lady Valeria will be pleased. Damien moved before I could. He shifted mid-step and lunged at Stefan, but the shadow shifter dissolved into darkness and reformed 10 feet away. 2 days, Stefan called as he faded. Tell her everything, Your Majesty, or I will. I should have seen it coming. Should have recognized the way shadows moved wrong around Damien when we met in secret. Should have remembered that shadow shifters like Stefan don't just disappear. They wait in the darkness, patient as death, until the perfect moment to strike. But I was too busy remembering what it felt like to be seen as something other than broken. Damien found me the next evening at the small park where I took Elijah after school. I'd told my son to stay on the swings where I could see him, but my heart hammered every time he laughed too loud, every time his joy threatened to crack through the careful control we'd practiced. We need to talk, Damien said, sitting beside me on the bench. He'd cleaned up since last night, no blood, no torn clothes, but the exhaustion in his eyes remained. Stefan Grimoire approached me this morning, said he had information about you, about what really happened 6 years ago. My blood went cold. What did he tell you? That you were there when Edward died. That witnesses saw you standing over his body with your hands covered in his blood. Damien's gaze held mine. He says you're not the victim. You're the murderer. And you believe him. The words came out sharper than I intended. I don't know what to believe anymore. He ran a hand through his dark hair. 6 months ago, I would have said my stepmother loved me, that the council served justice, that my father died of natural causes. I've learned that everything I thought I knew was a lie. So you think I'm a liar too. I think you've been hiding for 6 years. I think you have a son you've never mentioned. I think your name isn't Naomi Wells. He leaned forward. But I also think you saved my life when you didn't have to, that you looked terrified when Stefan appeared. That everything in me says you're telling the truth. Too busy pretending that maybe, just maybe, I could have a second chance at love. Edward was my mate, I said quietly, watching Elijah spin in circles until he got dizzy. We were going to leave together, start over somewhere the prophecy couldn't touch us. Stefan ambushed us in the mountains. Silver lace claws through Edward's chest. I tried to heal him, but my voice cracked. I couldn't. My magic wasn't strong enough. He died in my arms, while Stefan told me the prophecy couldn't be fulfilled, that we both had to die. Your son, Damien said carefully. He's Edward's. His name is Elijah. He's 6. And he's showing signs of both bloodlines, werewolf and conjurer. I finally looked at him. That's why Stefan wants him dead. Why Lady Valeria wants him dead. Because if the prophecy is real, if I really can unite the territories, then Elijah is the bridge between worlds, Damien finished. The heir to both legacies. Mama! Elijah called, waving from the swings. Watch this. He jumped, and for one heart-stopping moment, I saw fire flicker around his hands as he flew through the air. He landed hard, the flames dying instantly, but Damien had seen it too. Does he know what he is? Damien asked. He knows he's different. He doesn't know why. I stood up, needing to get closer to my son, and I'd like to keep it that way for as long as possible. But that night, Stefan made his move. Damien called me at midnight, his voice tight with something I couldn't name. Stefan brought me documents, letters, between you and Lady Valeria, discussing Edward's death, planning my father's murder, your handwriting, your magical signature on the seal. That's impossible. They're dated from 6 years ago. Detailed plans about how to frame me, how to eliminate the Chesterfield heir, how to position you as the false conjurer who destabilized the territories. I heard papers rustling, and there's more. Testimony from wolves who claim they saw you meeting with my stepmother. Photographs. A paper trail of payments made to an account under your real name. Damien, no. Stefan is lying. He's manipulating. Then explain how he has evidence that predates my father's death. Explain how he knows details about the night Edward died that only you could know. His voice dropped to something cold and unfamiliar. Explain why every single piece of evidence points to you being exactly what Stefan says you are, a weapon sent by my stepmother to destroy anyone who threatens her power. Foolish. Fatal. I can't meet with you any more, Damien said. The council has issued a summons. In 2 days, you'll stand trial before the 4 territories. They want justice for Prince Edward. They want proof you're not part of Lady Valeria's conspiracy. And if I can't prove it... The silence stretched too long. Then I'll have no choice but to execute you myself. You know what the worst part about people like Stefan is? They don't just destroy you. They make the people you trust destroy you for them. They twist truth into lies so convincing that even good people become weapons. If you've ever had someone manipulate the truth to turn others against you, if you refuse to side with shadow shifters and backstabbers like Stefan Grimoire, hit that subscribe button. Only manipulators and liars won't. Drop a comment saying, I stand with the truth, because in this story, the truth is the only thing that might save Nala now. But will Damien see it in time? Keep watching. The Lycan King suspicion. They put silver chains on my wrists, the same metal that had killed Edward. Poetically, I'd spent 6 years blaming myself for failing to save him, and now I die the same way he did, betrayed by someone who claimed to seek justice. The wolves came for me at dawn. Not Damien, he wouldn't even look at me, but his enforcers, grim-faced and silent as they dragged me from my apartment while Elijah slept in the next room. I had spent the entire night weaving protection spells around him, layering elemental magic into his walls, his windows, his very skin. Mrs. Lillian would find him in the morning with a note I'd written through tears. Keep him safe. Tell him his mother loved him more than prophecies, more than magic, more than her own life. Please, I'd beg the lead enforcer, just let me say goodbye to my son. He'd looked away. The Lycan King's orders. You're not to speak to anyone. Day 1 in the prison cell beneath the territorial courthouse. I learned what it meant to be truly alone. The silver chains burned constantly, suppressing my magic, turning my skin raw and blistered. Every few hours, different wolves would come to stare at me through the bars. Some curious, some hateful, all convinced I was the monster who'd killed their beloved prince and conspired to destroy their king. Murderer, one woman spat. I hope you burn slowly. I didn't tell her I was already burning. Had been burning for 6 years, ever since Edward's blood had cooled on my hands. Damien never came. I'd hoped he would, foolishly. Hoped he'd look into my eyes one more time and see the truth Stefan had buried under forged documents and manufactured testimony. But as day 1 bled into night, I understood. He'd made his choice. Duty over trust. Evidence over instinct. The same choice that had gotten Edward killed, believing the wrong people at exactly the wrong time. He's convinced himself this is justice. A guard told me during the evening meal I couldn't eat. Saw him earlier. Looks like a man attending his own funeral. Good, I whispered and meant it. Let him feel even a fraction of what I'd felt watching Edward die. Let him understand what it costs to execute someone who saved your life. Day 2 dawned with the sound of crowds gathering. Thousands of wolves from all 4 territories come to witness the execution of the false conjurer. I could hear their excitement, their bloodlust, the way they chanted for my death like it was entertainment. Through the small window in my cell, I watched Stephen Grimoire stand beside Lady Valeria Ashford, Damien's stepmother, beautiful and cold as winter itself. She smiled at something Stephen whispered, and I knew with absolute certainty what they were planning. Elijah. Once I was dead, my protection spells would fade. My son would be vulnerable. "I'm sorry, baby," I whispered to the walls, to the magic I could no longer touch, to the son who would wake up without a mother. "I'm so sorry I wasn't strong enough. Not for your father. Not for you." The guards came at noon to lead me to the platform they'd built in the town square. Silver Blade already waiting. Damien Ashford standing beside it in ceremonial robes, his ice blue eyes empty as winter sky. He looked at me once, just once, and I saw what it was costing him. Not enough. Not nearly enough. "Any last words?" he asked, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. I had so many. About Edward. About Elijah. About how prophecies destroy everyone they touch. About how I'd healed him because I couldn't bear to watch another person die, and this was my reward. But instead, I looked at Stephen standing in the crowd with a satisfied smile and said, "Only his name is Elijah. He has his father's eyes. Protect him from your stepmother, Lycan King. She's the one who killed them both." Damien's expression fractured for just a moment. Then he raised the silver blade, and I closed my eyes. The only difference: Edward died believing I loved him. Damien would kill me believing I'd betrayed him. Neither of us would be right. Neither of us would be wrong. And my son would be orphaned by prophecy and paranoia. The silver burned going in, but not as much as the look in Damien's eyes when he realized what he'd done. "Nala Eastwood," Damien's voice rang across the town square, formal and cold as death itself. "You stand accused of murdering Prince Edward Chesterfield of the Chesterfield Pack, of conspiring with Lady Valeria Ashford to frame me for my father's death, of falsely claiming to be the prophesied conjurer in order to destabilize the 4 territories. How do you answer these charges?" The crowd pressed closer, thousands of wolves baying for blood. I stood on the platform in my silver chains, my wrists raw and bleeding, and looked the man who'd promised to protect me. Somewhere in that sea of faces, I knew Stephen Grimoire was watching, waiting. Lady Valeria would be far away. She always kept her hands clean, but Stephen would ensure I died and that Elijah would be next. "I loved Edward," I said clearly. "We were mates. We were going to start a life together away from all of this, away from prophecies and pack politics and people who wanted to use us as weapons. Stephen Grimoire murdered him on Lady Valeria's orders because Edward rejected his throne, because a prince who chose love over power was more dangerous to her plans than any conjurer could ever be." "Lies!" someone shouted from the crowd. "We have witnesses," Damien said, but I heard the fracture in his voice. "We have evidence." "You have forgeries created by a shadow shifter who spent 6 years hunting my son." I searched the crowd, but couldn't find Stephen's face among the thousands. Ask yourself why Stephen brought you this evidence now. Why he waited until after I healed you. Why he needs me dead so badly. "The elders demand proof," one of the council members called out, his voice sharp with authority. "If you're truly the prophesied conjurer, show us. Call the elements. Prove your worth." Every eye turned to me. The silver chain suppressed most of my magic, but not all of it. I could give them fire, could make them believe. "No," I said quietly. The crowd erupted in outrage. Damien's eyes narrowed. "No." I won't use my power to prove my worth to people who've already decided I'm guilty. I met his gaze and saw him falter. You want justice? Then look at the truth standing right in front of you. Look at who benefits from my death. Look at who's been manipulating you since the moment I saved your life. Damien raised the silver blade, and I saw it, the hesitation, the way his hand trembled, the same look in his eyes that Edward must have seen before dying, the desperate realization that something was terribly, irreversibly wrong. A voice cut through the murmurs, familiar and poisonous. She killed Prince Edward in cold blood. Stephen Grimoire stepped forward from the crowd, his silver hair catching the light, his face arranged in perfect sorrow. I was there, Your Majesty. I watched her stand over his body. I watched her try to flee. Every wolf here deserves justice for what she's done. Stephen. I breathed, and the crowd's energy shifted, became hungrier. Execute her, someone shouted. The chant built like a wave. Execute her. Execute her. Execute her. Damien's ice-blue eyes met mine one final time, and I saw the moment he chose duty over doubt. The blade came down. See, here's the thing about dying. Time slows down enough that you see everything with perfect clarity. The silver pierced my heart, and my magic, 6 years of suppressed, terrified, grief-soaked magic, exploded outward in a burst of elemental power. Fire, water, earth, and air spiraled around the platform in a maelstrom of raw energy. The prophecy marks I'd spent years hiding blazed across my skin in silver flame, visible to every wolf in the square. Undeniable, irrefutable, real. The crowd went deathly silent. No, Damien whispered, staring at the marks burning across my skin. No, you're... Mama! A child's scream tore through the silence. Elijah broke through the crowd, his small body glowing with the same elemental magic, his amber eyes, Edward's unmistakable amber eyes, streaming with tears. Mama, no. Mama, please. I saw Damien's face shatter like glass, saw him understand in that terrible, crystalline moment that he'd just killed Edward's mate, orphaned the true Chesterfield heir, executed the only conjurer who could have saved them all. Elijah, I tried to say, but blood filled my mouth. My baby, my beautiful boy with his father's eyes and my magic. Run! But Stephen was faster. His shadows wrapped around my son before anyone could move, before Damien could even reach for him. Thank you, Your Majesty, Stephen said, his voice carrying across the stunned square as he pulled Elijah into the darkness. You've made Lady Valeria's work so much easier. The heir and the conjurer, both eliminated in one afternoon. She'll be pleased. No! Damien lunged forward, but Stephen was already dissolving into shadow, taking Elijah with him. My son's terrified scream echoed across the square, fading as the darkness swallowed him. The last thing I heard was Damien screaming my name, the sound raw and broken and far too late. This is what Edward felt, I thought as the world faded to black. This is the betrayal, the confusion, the desperate wish that the person you trusted would realize the truth before it was too late. At least Edward died knowing I loved him. I died knowing Damien would have to live with what he'd done. I'm not sure which of us got the better end of that bargain. The spirit realm. Death isn't what you think it is. It's not darkness or peace or reunion with loved ones. It's suspension, hanging in a place where you can see everything you've lost and everything you still need to do, but you can't touch any of it. I opened my eyes to silver mist and endless twilight. The spirit realm, the place between life and death where souls waited for their final journey. I could feel the silver blade still lodged in my heart, could taste blood in my mouth that wasn't there anymore. But I wasn't bleeding, wasn't breathing, wasn't quite anything at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Ancient, feminine, powerful. 3 figures materialized from the mist, women with my dark skin, my eyes, my bone structure. The first conjurers. My ancestors. Your work isn't finished, child. I'm dead, I said or tried to say. My voice sounded hollow, echoing. Damien killed me. Stefan has my son. It's over. Your conjurer blood won't let you die completely. The tallest one stepped closer, and I saw prophecy marks blazing across her skin, just like mine. You're tethered to the mortal realm by an incomplete destiny. The prophecy must be fulfilled. I don't care about the prophecy. The words ripped out of me. My son. Nala. I turned, and there he was. Edward. Exactly as I remembered him. Amber eyes, gentle smile, the way he looked at me like I was his entire world. My knees buckled, and I wasn't sure if spirits could cry, but I was sobbing anyway. Edward, I'm so sorry. I couldn't save you. I tried so hard. I know. He pulled me close, and I felt his warmth without warmth, his love without heartbeat. But you were never meant to save me, Nala. My death was necessary. You had to experience ultimate loss to understand ultimate strength. Had to know what it felt like to fail so completely that you'd never let it happen again. That's cruel. That's prophecy. He cupped my face in hands I could barely feel. But look what you did tonight. You died, and your magic exploded across the 4 territories. Every wolf saw your marks. Every wolf knows you with a true conjurer. Stefan can't hide anymore. Lady Valeria's conspiracy is exposed. You changed everything. Elijah is alive. Look. Edward gestured, and the mist parted like curtains. I saw the mortal realm through dimensional windows. Saw Stefan dragging my terrified son through shadows to a mansion I recognized as the Ashford estate. Saw Lady Valeria waiting with silver chains. Saw Elijah crying for me, his small hands glowing with elemental magic he couldn't control. No, I whispered, reaching for him, but my hands passed through the window like smoke. Another window opened. Damien knelt on the execution platform, my blood on his hands, his ice-blue eyes empty as winter. He wasn't moving, wasn't speaking, just staring at the silver blade like he could rewind time if he looked hard enough. He's broken, one of the first conjurers said, completely shattered by what he's done. Good, I said viciously. Let him feel it. Let him understand. You don't mean that. Edward turned me away from the window. I know you, Nala. You're angry, you're hurt, but you don't want him to suffer. You want to save our son. How? I'm dead. You can return, the first conjurers said together, but resurrection requires sacrifice. A living immortal must give up their power willingly, must become mortal in your place. Edward stepped forward immediately. Take me. Take my place in the spirit realm. Send me to the final death, whatever it costs. You're already dead, the tallest ancestor said gently. Your sacrifice isn't enough. It must be someone living, someone with immortal power still flowing through their veins. Understanding hit me like a physical blow. A Lycan King. The very one who killed you, she confirmed. Damien Ashford must choose to sacrifice his immortality, his healing, his strength, his extended lifespan. He must choose to become human, mortal, vulnerable. Only then can you return. He won't do it, I said flatly. He just executed me. Why would he? Because he knows the truth now, Edward interrupted. Because he's seen Elijah. Because every wolf in that square saw your prophecy marks and knows he killed an innocent woman. His own people are turning against him. The council is demanding answers. And Stefan just took the Chesterfield air in front of thousands of witnesses. Through another window, I saw the void. Cracks spreading across reality itself like spider webs. Shadow creatures, void walkers, pouring through into the mortal realm. Towns burning. Wolves dying. Everything unraveling because the prophesied conjurer had died before completing her destiny. This is what happens when the balance breaks, the ancestors said. This is why you must return. Edward held me one more time. You can still fix this. You can still save our son. But how could I save anyone when I couldn't even save myself? When the man who killed me was the only person with the power to bring me back. The resurrection bargain. I came back to life with silver in my lungs and rage in my heart. The resurrection was violent. Fire, water, earth, and air slammed back into my body all at once, knitting flesh and bone with agonizing precision. I gasped, choking on breath I hadn't needed for 3 days, tasting blood and magic and the metallic tang of the silver blade that had killed me. Damien knelt before me in the heart of the wilds, the sacred grove where the first conjurers had been born, and I saw immediately what his sacrifice had cost. The immortal glow was gone from his skin. The ancient power had drained from his eyes, leaving them hollow and human. His hands shook as he reached toward me, then stopped, as if he'd lost the right to touch me. He'd made himself mortal to bring me back. And my first thought wasn't gratitude. It was good. Let him know what it feels like to be vulnerable. Let him understand what he took from me. Nala, he whispered, my name breaking in his throat. I'm so sorry. God, I can't. The things I believe, the evidence Stefan showed me, his voice cracked completely. You saved my life, and I executed you. You told me the truth, and I called you a liar. Your son screamed for you, and I... Where is Elijah? I cut him off, my voice raw and unfamiliar. 3 days dead had changed something fundamental in me. Something cold and sharp had taken root where my compassion used to live. Stefan took him to Lady Valeria's estate, the Ashford mansion in the Northern Territory. Damien's newly mortal hands clenched into fists. I've had my people watching, but they can't get close. She's fortified it with magic I've never seen before. Dark magic. And the void, Nala, the void is opening. Reality is tearing apart. Towns are being destroyed. Void walkers are pouring through, and without you, without me, the prophecy fails and everything burns. I pushed myself to standing, and elemental magic crackled around me like lightning. Stronger than before. Angrier. I know. The first conjurers explained it very clearly while I was dead. Dead because of him. Because he'd chosen paranoia over trust. Because Stefan had played him like an instrument and he'd been too traumatized, too broken by his stepmother's betrayal to see it. But then I felt it. A pull in my chest, sharp and desperate. Elijah's terror echoing across dimensions. His small voice crying out for me through whatever dark magic Lady Valeria had wrapped around him. My son, my baby who'd watched me die, who'd been taken by the same shadow shifter who'd murdered his father. The time for vengeance would have to wait. Can you fight? I asked Damien coldly. Or did you sacrifice all your strength along with your immortality? I'm mortal now, not helpless. He stood, and I saw him sway slightly, still adjusting to a body that could actually break. I've trained my entire life as a warrior. I don't need supernatural strength to kill the people who destroyed us both. Us. I laughed, and it sounded nothing like the woman who'd healed a dying wolf in her classroom. There is no us, Damien. You executed me. You orphaned my son. The only reason you're still breathing is because I need your knowledge of that estate to get Elijah back. I know. His ice blue eyes, so much dimmer now, so heartbreakingly human, held mine. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Don't deserve to stand beside you. But let me help you save him. Let me do this one thing right before... The ground beneath us cracked. Through the fissure, I saw darkness. Not shadow, something worse. The void itself, hungry and ancient, pulling at the edges of reality. Before the world ends, I finished. Fine. We go to the Ashford estate. We get my son. And then I close the void and fulfill this damned prophecy. I looked at him, this man who'd killed me and sacrificed everything to bring me back, and felt absolutely nothing. After that, you stay far away from me and Elijah. Forever. Nala. Those are my terms. Elemental magic swirled around my hands. Fire and water, earth and air, all four elements answering my call with a fury I'd never felt before. Take them or burn with Stefan and your stepmother when I tear that mansion apart brick by brick. Damien bowed his head. I'll take them. Good. I turned toward the north, toward the Ashford estate, toward my son. Then let's go get my baby back. And I would burn the entire spirit realm to ash. Burn the mortal realm too, before I let anyone take another person I loved. So here's the thing about people like Stefan and Lady Valeria. They think prophecies and power give them the right to destroy innocent lives. They think they can murder lovers, frame kings, and kidnap children without consequences. They think mothers like me will just disappear quietly into the darkness. They're wrong. If you believe manipulators like Stefan don't deserve to win, if you can't stand people who use fear and lies to tear families apart, hit subscribe right now. Comment justice for Nala if you're not siding with the villains. Because what happens next? When I walk into that mansion with fire in my hands and rage in my heart. When Damien, the man who executed me, has to decide if his redemption is worth more than his life. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Click that notification bell because the void is opening, my son is in chains, and I'm about to show the 4 territories exactly what happens when you hurt a mother's child.